Call me old man Wade.
Damn you, old man!
Wait.
Old ass man.
Shut up, old man. You smell like fart.
No!
Old man.
He's so old, he got a podcast on cassette.
Fuck, you're old.
Damn it, Wade.
And welcome to the Old Man Wade Show. I am your host, the God of Stubborn, the Lord of Laughter, Old Man Wade. I'm sitting here with my former editor, someone who I don't know how he dealt with me sending him stuff at 3 in the morning. When he wakes up, he's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It's 3 in the morning. I haven't even had my coffee yet. What's going on, man? Tell everyone who you are.
My name is I'm Rob Wolkenbrod. I've been with Fanside for 5 years now. Write for the Knicks for them, and I write about the Spurs for Forbes, and formerly, Bam Smack Pow editor of the past. What I do for 2 years.
Oh, so you started like right around the time, like a little while before I jumped on.
Yeah, I think I started on there about maybe 2 or 3 months beforehand. We had a very, very small staff when I joined on there. I think before you, it was maybe 4 people, I think. So, yeah, the site was small. So, once you joined and once a few others joined, the thing it took off over the next, 2 years.
I mean, it seems to be going strong. There's been some changes being made, but it seems like the company seems to at least give a crap, and the entertainment editor's super awesome. So far, everyone who's been on there has been great, so I can't say enough great things about him, so I'm happy.
Yeah. It's been, I've seen, I heard the changes happened actually the day after I left. Eric actually, the other co-editor on there, told me about them. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I had no idea that was coming. The whole getting rid of comic book reviews, but that's a whole other topic. Yeah. Yeah,
actually, because I think that leads into the second topic we'll get into based on comic books. Before we get into comic books, let's get into some NBA stuff, because some news just dropped this morning, apparently. You want to speak on the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George thing?
Yeah, I went to bed at 1:45 last night, not thinking anything. And I wake up this morning and I get there was a notification on my phone at 1:54. Kawhi Leonard has agreed to join the Clippers, and he's taking Paul George with him. I'm like, where the hell did that come from? I mean, Paul George just signed a 4-year deal to stay in Oklahoma City last year. They gave him his day was actually supposed to be, I think, tomorrow, Paul George Day.
That is so funny.
It absolutely blew my mind. I mean, not the part of Kawhi going to Los Angeles, but Paul George going with him. And for the price, 5 first-round picks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, that's incredible.
And it's funny that they traded him after making this after Paul George made a concerted effort to come back and going all in, and he had probably the best year he's had in a very long time. To ship him out, it just seems that OKC is all right, clean house. This experiment has failed. Let's try something new.
Yeah, it's crazy because now suddenly the Thunder might have to rebuild now, I guess.
Yeah.
And now the Clippers are title contenders. It's weird. It's weird how everything changes within a snap, just like that. The NBA is the wild, wild west. I love it.
And the best thing about it is this isn't one of those trades that isn't going to work because both of those guys aren't really numbers driven. They're both team players. They're both defensive minded teammates. So this is one of those things where you know how when LeBron and the Big Three got together, you're like, well, how is this going to work? This is them. It's oh no, this is going to work immediately.
Yeah. You see this and you're just you got 2 6'7", 6'8" guys coming together who they play defense amazingly. They shoot the ball well. They do everything well. They're these all-around wings that teams will love to have just one of them, and now the Clippers have 2 of them. It's crazy. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is Paul George just underwent shoulder surgery on both shoulders for I believe was a torn labrum on each side. I think it's either 1 or 2, but it's That's the only thing I'm a little worried about. But otherwise, if he comes back healthy, he comes back as that number 2 guy to Kawhi. That team, they saw some good team around them too in Los Angeles. So it's gonna be crazy.
You think they're missing anything else there, or like are they pretty much one of the top contenders as of now?
I think the Clippers are top 2 or 3 contender just because Lakers are tough out there. The Warriors, the Warriors aren't going to be the same, obviously, but Stephen Curry, I'm not going to doubt him yet. And Draymond Green is still very good. D'Angelo Russell acquisition, I think, has the potential to pay off big time for them. But yeah, the Clippers, I think they have a very, very good chance right now.
You bring up the D'Angelo Russell thing, and I think everyone was shocked that he was going there because there were no hints of him even going to the Warriors. I know a lot of reports said back to the Lakers, which I thought would have been good for him because he'd have been in a much more comfortable position. But I don't know. This seems like a better move for him to be in a better environment, more positive people, and this also gives Steph Curry a chance to rest a little bit more since they both play similar. They both play the same positions, and D'Angelo Russell can learn from Steph Curry as well.
Right. Yeah. It's a situation that no one expected. I mean, he was floated with the Timberwolves because he wanted to play with his best friend Karl Anthony Towns. But then once you get the Warriors coming in, I mean, they've been the standard bearers of the NBA for the past 5 years. And once they offer you a contract to come in and play with Curry when Thompson gets healthy, when Green's back, it's great. It's wild. And I mean, it makes me a little reminiscent of the Curry-Monte Ellis backcourt from about 6 years ago. But I think Russell's a little more. Yeah, that was a whole other thing too. But I think Russell's a better player than Monte Ellis. And I think, him and Curry together, I mean, they're shorter Splash Brothers, but they could be awesome. If they stay together, if they don't do any type of alternative move, like let's say sending Russell to Timberwolves down the line, I think this could be a lot of fun. They might not win a championship, but they'll be a lot of fun.
Which I think for Golden State is probably the biggest thing for them since they were big in the 90s. They had a weird 2000s where they were either really bad or what were they calling them? Like the We Believe Warriors or something like that. And then they were bad again. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're maybe the most popular team in the NBA. So it's weird to see, I guess right now it's a good thing for them to just be relevant, popular, and fun.
Yeah, they're. I mean, they've got that big time. I mean, I assume they have a big fan base now with championships, and they're just a fun team now. People are gonna. I think they'll be a little more likable now because now they're not gonna have Durant. And I mean, without Thompson now, they're gonna be looked as underdogs. People are gonna look at Curry as this guy's been around forever. They're gonna love him now, and Golden State could be a lot of fun.
What are your expectations for Golden State next year?
Expectations for Golden State, I think they're gonna be a top. What do I want to say? Top 4 team in the West. Maybe they get it at about number 4, maybe as low as number 5. But I could see them making it into maybe the second round of the Western Conference playoffs right now with how everything looks. It's just they're going to run into either Clippers or Lakers, and I don't think that's going to go well either way.
Yeah, are you worried about the Lakers? Because I always look at them and I'm just kind of like, Even with LeBron and Anthony Davis, it's like that's still not enough with their management just being so, I guess, bad. You know what I mean? And then Magic leaving probably is making players skeptical of even signing there.
Yeah, that whole thing that was bizarre. Magic going out and doing the impromptu presser like he did and announcing he was leaving, and then all the Rob Pelinka / Rob Lowe shenanigans, and that whole thing was crazy. So I mean, it was enough for Anthony Davis to still want to go there. And I saw earlier today they They signed Danny Green. They're bringing back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They could have a decent roster. They just need more outside shooting along with these players because Danny Green's a start, but that Lakers team last year, everyone knew they were flawed from the beginning, and they went downhill once, the LeBron injury happened, and then they just fell behind.
Injury. It's everyone's like, oh, just give him. I'm like, no, let's. Yes, Anthony Davis is one of the best, 5 or 10 players in the league. LeBron's still top 5 player, maybe the best player in the league. But then there's that inevitable month in January, LeBron takes a whole month off. Anthony Davis is probably going to miss anywhere between 20 and 30 games. So right there, that kind of puts them in a weird position where you're not sure if they could, because they could potentially be the best team in the league, but they could also be maybe floating towards the middle of the bottom of the playoffs, depending on how their injuries run, and like you said, if they get any outside shooters.
Yeah, you were saying with the injuries, like LeBron, who know, even when he was with Cleveland, you saw him get off the gas pedal just a little bit during the middle of the season. You see him walking down the court on defense. It's not addressed too much, but you could just see it watching the game. It's obvious. He's not going to go full speed ahead, especially when he sees he has a teammate like Anthony Davis, and he still has Kyle Kuzma there and Green, and he's gonna back off a little bit, but at the same time too, if Anthony Davis goes down, which it's realistic because whether it's a foot, whether it's a shoulder injury, whatever he's dealt with over the years, something's going to happen. He's just always been a somewhat brittle. Because you can pencil him in for 60, 65 games. Maybe that's enough for the Lakers, but it's still a little bit of a reason to be hesitant with them.
All right, let's move over to the East Coast. And the god awful New York Knicks, man. Let me tell you, I love telling this story because I'm a Celtics guy. I've been raised a Celtics guy. I remember when they were really, really, really bad. Where they had this, I don't know your knowledge of Celtics basketball, but they had this dude named Marty Conlon who looked like, if you Google him, he looks like just some random guy they found off the street and was like, "Hey, can you hit free throws? Put on a jersey and we can go with it." So. And
the Celtics have been, they're their whole situation, but yeah.
But for me, my first real introduction to basketball as someone who actually, when I started to love it, was watching the Knicks and the Pacers in the playoffs. And the way they used to just beat the crap out of each other was just great. It was hard nosed, gritty basketball. Fell in love with the Oakleys, the Anthony Masons. Hated John Starks, but I used to love the Knicks. And then. That weird year where everybody was a free agent, and then they signed Amari Stoudemire, and I'm like, okay. I was like, all right, okay, well, fine, okay, we'll go with that. And then they traded for Carmelo Anthony when they could have just waited a year because that's where you knew where he was going anyway. So then they lose 3 or 4 draft picks over the next 5 years or something like that.
Oh God, they lost. What was it? They lost most of their starting lineup that year, which was actually playing well around Amari. And then, the draft picks, I think they became Jamal Murray, who's with the Nuggets now playing well. I think they lost. I'm forgetting who the other draft picks turned into, but they turned into. They lost so many different assets, and that. And over the years, that trickled down to where as these Knicks teams kept going year by year, they kept getting less depth and less depth behind Melo, and you saw the result. It eventually fell into one of the worst teams in the league.
Well, the good thing is you guys dodged the bullet by not signing Kyrie Irving because that guy is just he is a virus to NBA teams. And when the trade deadline came up last year, I said to everyone, I was like, please, for the love of Odin, just trade Kyrie Irving. So we need a scorer. I'm like, yes, I agree. The Celtics need a scorer, but they also need someone who's going to run the offense, not someone who's going to dribble for 8 years and you can see Brad Stevens, who doesn't really have a lot of emotions, just kind of looking at Kyrie Irving, going, just a few more months, I can be rid of him. But
Yeah, Kyrie was, oh god, from that and all the comments he made mid-season about how he went from the start of the season where he was just like, oh, I'm gonna re-sign with the Celtics if you'll have me back. He said it in front of the whole arena. It was insane. I've never seen anything like that before. But then everyone I remember at the time said, just wait and see. Kyrie is a different character. Wait and see. And then you get by January, February, and he's saying, oh, I don't know, I need to reevaluate myself in free agency now. Give me until July 1st. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Wow.
If you go online, there's people have found screenshots of that, and then there's a picture of Al Horford kind of looking at him like, yeah, okay. So the Brooklyn Nets now have Kyrie Irving. They signed Kevin Durant, which I honestly don't think it's going to work. But before we get into that, what are your feelings on what the Knicks have done so far? Because I've heard both sides of the story where some people are going, this was a really good offseason for the Knicks. And then I've heard some opinions on the other side where they say this was a really bad offseason for the Knicks.
Well, the reason why I think people say it's a bad offseason was because of what James Dolan said about 4 months ago, and I think it was on the Michael Kay show when he said he's expecting big players to come over here to New York. I'm like, you're setting yourself up for a lot of heartbreak for the fans if things don't work out. So as a result, when Durant and Kyrie go to Brooklyn and the other players go elsewhere, people say it's a bad offseason, but for what Steve Mills and Scott Perry have done in that front office, putting that cap space towards players who aren't long-term contracts, who they can get out of as soon as next year, aside from Julius Randle, I actually think they did a nice job. And I think they improved that team to the point where they might not make the playoffs, but my God, 1765, that can't happen again. There is no way they can go through another season with 17 wins. Going through, at one point in the season, they had an 18-game losing streak.
Ew.
That's historically bad. And you can't put, as devoted of a fan base as the Knicks fan base is, through that again. So even though this signing Julius Randle, Bobby Portis, Elfrid Payton, all the others, they're not going to make them into this great team. Be it they'll push it towards maybe 30-something games. They'll win.
Which is funny because the East has been either really bad or they've been really good. So they could actually make the playoffs if the East is bad again. If the East is bad, they could make the playoffs. But if the East is good, they could possibly still sneak in at 8. I think people are underestimating how good Julius Randle is. He seemed to have gotten progressively better every year. And playing with Anthony Davis was good for him because you could tell how good he got when Anthony Davis went down. His points went up, his rebounds went up, his blocks went up. I'm not sure what his field goal percentage was, but he was playing a lot better than he was in LA, which is funny. Another player who leaves LA and then goes off to do bigger and better things. Yeah,
that was from one of Magic Johnson's many weird moves, but yeah, once Randle got his opportunity in New Orleans this past year, he flourished. He extended his range shooting because the knock on him was always that he can't shoot the 3-pointer. He had by far a career high in that this year. There was even a video on him the other day on Twitter making, I think, 10, 20 consecutive 3-pointers. So, I mean, that's a nice thing for the Knicks to hopefully get. What I'm worried about is that those numbers, his points numbers specifically, were inflated a little bit just because of where the Pelicans were at that time. Anthony Davis, I mean, obviously Anthony Davis was out, but the scoring opportunities were there for him. I think he'll still have some of that with the Knicks because there's just no clear-cut, big-time number one guy there right now. So maybe he will average 20 points a game again, but just a little worried that it might not happen again. And I'm a little worried about his defense.
Yeah.
Especially playing next to Mitchell Robinson, who can be. I mean, he's an awesome shot blocker. I love him, but he can be a little erratic with getting in foul trouble himself. So if he goes down, You put Randall in, even if you put Bobby Portis in, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see.
Do you what do you I had a question about Julius Randle. Do you think he has what it takes to lead a team?
Julius Randle?
Yes.
Leading a team? No, I don't think so. I think he would need to be maybe the third guy. I think he could do good as the third guy. I don't know about a second guy. I don't know about him as the second guy, but if, let's say, the Knicks add two very good players next to him over the next couple of years with the space that they kept in through their free agent moves, he could be a nice piece towards that. He could be a very good piece. Just leading a team, I'm not sure about that right now. I hope I'm proven wrong, but for now, I'm a little skeptical on that.
You actually had a really good tweet sometime this week about, and it was a good observation about Elfrid Payton maybe not being as bad as everyone was, and then mentioning like the Knicks' defensive capabilities.
Yeah, Elfrid Payton. I like the sign. I like the sign a little more than I mean. I don't know what kind of reaction he got from everyone on Twitter, but I know he's a good defensive player. He can dish the ball very well. Shooting is it's not really good, but the Knicks just need someone who's just going to pass out the ball and be a little turnover conscious, and just play good defense at that position. Because Dennis Smith Jr. I want to like him a lot, but he's a little erratic right now. He's still 21 years old. He can develop, but he's still erratic. So pairing those two together, while they're not great shooters, I think they somewhat complement each other okay. And also I think Elfrid Payton is just also a little bit of an enhanced version of Frank Ntilikina, who fans love. And they think he hasn't gotten the chance he's deserved, but I don't know. I'm not as big of a Ntilikina fan as other people are, but so I am happy about the Payton signing. Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance you guys to get someone like Boogie Cousins, and do you think that would actually help the Knicks at all?
Sorry, your mic cut out a little bit on that.
Yeah, this the cord on here is a little bit weird. What do you think about like maybe the Knicks picking up someone like Boogie Cousins? Do you think that could help their improve at all, or do you think Boogie's pretty much on a decline now?
Yeah, I think Boogie's on a little bit of a decline now. Yeah, because the injuries now. I mean, he's torn quad after the ruptured Achilles. I mean, teams aren't even. From the reports I saw, teams aren't even really showing interest in him, which I'm surprised about, even for something like a deal that he took with the Warriors last year, which was a little over $5 million. I think he's going to end up going to the Lakers or something like that. I think with the Knicks, he could have been. I actually wouldn't have minded him the more I thought about it, just because who else is there right now? They're not going to win next year, so why not give him a chance? But it would have been fun. He could have grown into a 20-10 guy again if he was able to return healthy. But right now, I think he's going to go off to one of the Los Angeles teams, and he'll take a back seat, and he'll hopefully contribute towards a championship for one of them.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say about. Again, like I said, I used to really, really love the Knicks, man. Like it was one of those teams that, like, whenever it was like, yes, the Knicks are on. Now it's just like. And then the whole thing with James Dolan and Charles Oakley, and he just doesn't seem to really care about the team in general. It's just, it's not as, I don't know if it's as bad or worse than what's going on in the front office and with the Lakers.
Yeah, the Dolan stuff. I mean, you have to imagine that it factored into everything that happened with not getting any free agents to come by. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets are a quiet team right across town. And then you have Dolan speaks out. He's banning fans. He's the Oakley incident. It's not a great look at all. And I can't blame anyone for not coming to the Knicks if they see what Dolan's been doing. I would have loved to see him just back off just a little bit, but it's just hard not. It's hard not to think he's part of the cause here for why the Knicks, at least the public value of them, is just shot down in recent years.
Yeah. I got nothing, man. It's just so, and it's funny. I don't know what how is the attendance at Madison Square Garden? Is it still like ranking up around the top?
They still always sell out. It's crazy.
So it doesn't even matter if they're good because they're still going to sell out.
Yep. Yeah. Even when I went to there for a few games earlier this season to cover, and the place is full top to bottom. I mean, the prices to get in there are still high. So people are still willing to pay a premium ticket to go see a team that's just not doing anything. And it's amazing for a fan base to be like that. I think that's pretty cool. But at the same time, this team, it's something.
Yeah, So last NBA thoughts. Is there anything that like you think, any hot takes you want to get out that you think people aren't really talking about right now?
Oh, hot takes. What, free agency or anything related to that?
Free agency, something you've seen, expectations for next year.
Oh, well, the one. Well, I should bring this up because I wrote about this a little earlier today. One of the fun things that people are starting to float around now is that they think the Knicks should acquire Russell Westbrook. I saw that, and I'm like, no. How does that make any sense? I mean, he's still putting up triple-doubles every year. I mean, it's been 3 straight years, which is great. Good for him. But if you look, the numbers aren't all just points, rebounds, and assists. Those are just the glossy numbers you can look at and say, ooh, that looks nice. Look at that field goal percentage. Yeah. Look at his 3-point percentage. Look at his player efficiency rating. Look at his age. Look at his contract. Look at what the Knicks would probably have to give up for him. No. So you
want Westbrook as far away from your Knicks as possible?
Yes. I mean, let's say if the Thunder were basically handing him on the silver platter for maybe a 2027 second-round pick, why not? But at the same time, that's not going to happen. But you're gonna pay up a lot. You're dealing with such a big risk. The guy just underwent another knee surgery earlier this offseason. I think it might have been his 3rd knee surgery. And his skill set is all based off his athleticism. When that athleticism goes away by the time he's 33, 34 years old, that contract's going to look horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I get why the Thunder did in the first place. But he's starting to go down already. And I think he's going to start going down further a little bit by the year.
We've seen what's been going on with Chris Paul and how he slowly declined as time went on. And when they signed into that gigantic contract for as long as they did, the only thing I could think about is he averages only about 50 to 60 games a year. And he's not the player. He's not going to be the player he once was at 34, and we've seen that. And also, he's a bit of a dickhead. So, you know what I mean? So, signing Westbrook or trading for Westbrook and bringing him to New York seems like an awful idea. And especially with all these young players, he's going to be detrimental to Dennis Smith Jr.'s progression as an NBA player, because you don't want somebody who's just going to take a bunch of shots, not really make it a point to mentor him. He's just going to, I need 20, 10, and 10, and then I can sit down and do whatever else I do and shoot under 30 from 3, barely 40 from the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was just, he will detriment them. He's done it to players in Oklahoma City. In New York, it'll be from Barrett to Knox to Smith Jr. to Rob. Not as much maybe Mitchell Robinson, but anyone who would come in through there over the next few years. He's going to take 20 to 25 shots a game. And when you have ball-hungry players for shooting the basketball like Knox and Barrett there, who they need to develop now at age 19, 20 years old, it's not great, especially for Westbrook's going to see himself as the savior of the team like he was after Durant left Oklahoma City a couple of years ago. So, God, who knows what would happen if he ever came here. But I think that would be absolutely insane for the Knicks to do. It hasn't been reported at all, but just from that fan perception that people are putting out there saying they need a superstar, and this isn't the superstar they need.
Yeah. We'll add that. So let's switch over to comic books. First off, what was it? Because you're one of the rare people who actually knows a lot about sports and comic books, which is something you don't really see now. And not even just sports, you also know a lot about wrestling too. But your comic book knowledge is actually there. Where did you get your start in with comic books?
Well, this might come as a little bit of a surprise, but I actually I started with the TV shows, the Arrowverse, back in I think 2012, 2013. So I hadn't really, actually, to be honest, I haven't read a lot of comic books because, and I know it seems like off balance with my role at Bam Smack Pow, but I followed the TV shows a lot. I loved Arrow, The Flash, the Marvel movies. Not so much the DC movies, but except for the Dark Knight trilogy. But yeah, I started with those TV shows that like once they were on every week. Like I love Stephen Amella's Arrow and Grant Gustin's The Flash. So that's how I really started to get into it. And then once I went from there, I started researching some stuff on comic book stories and how they tie into these shows and movies. So that's how I started getting a little more knowledge on there. But my focus is on the media side. Yeah.
So how do you do that? Like, for example, like you do a great job of being able to look at content from, like, when we're doing comic book reviews or comic book news. How would you suggest people who are writing articles and things like that to take something that they may think is a good idea, and how would you tell them, like, hey, this may or may not be a good idea? Like, so I wonder, like for example, there have been pieces, like with The Boys, for example. They were gaining a lot of traction because it's a very random comic book. It's very vulgar. It's very violent. So it's not really something that a lot of people know about. So for me, because I love the show, like, I'm all for it. Like, oh, I can't wait to write about it. And you're like, and you had to go, this isn't going to work because it's not gaining traction. So how would someone determine what is and isn't a good idea to write about?
Well, we'll go into that is, I guess, just seeing what people are talking about right now, and along with that is just like, I would compare it to how, like, because like The Boys it's a little bit of a niche topic, which is some of the topics that we cover on there, but like I would compare it to something like, let's say there was another staff writer on our site named Mark Alexander. He would write about smaller topics, much smaller topics at times. I would compare it towards that and just seeing how much that would, I guess, how many like page views that would go towards, and how that would work out. And if I saw it wasn't doing that much, I'd be like, I don't know if this is really worth. I hated turning down anything. I hate declining anything because I love to see all the content that you guys would put out and whatnot, and Eric feels the exact same way. But sometimes we try to make the decision where this is something like we need to put more of our focus towards just the Marvel and DC stuff rather than I guess almost everything else, really.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because you have a lot of people, like I have a website, so a lot of times, like, I say to myself, oh, I really want to write about this, but then I have to go to my wife, who isn't a comic book person, but she knows what's going on in the world, so she knows a lot about what people are into. So I go to her. And so, like, it's good to have someone to bounce ideas off of to make sure it's a good idea. Is that something, like, as an editor, is that something you would suggest people do to, like, bounce off ideas off someone who aren't, like, I guess, like, yes men, for the lack of a better term?
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad idea at all to do. Yeah, you can get a different insight. You can see if they would read it and they would check it out, if they would be intrigued by it. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. No.
How do you think this has been a topic I've been dying to talk about? Do you think the influence of the comic book movies influencing the actual comic books, do you think this is going to be a good thing for comic book fans long term?
Yes, and no. Because I could see the comic books almost becoming more of like a supplement to these movies, which is cool because you might get people going to check out and seeing like, oh, how's this comic book like weave into the movie I just saw. But at the same time, you're going to get people moving away from these books like people are doing with reading in general, and they want to see a visual. So at least the perception I've gotten is they want to see a visual thing on the screen. And I mean, yeah, you can read a comic book on your iPad or your computer and whatnot, but I think people like the action rather than seeing the words, if that makes sense.
It does. Why is that though? Like, 'cause again, I'm a reader. I love to read comic books. I used to read books, like a lot of books when I was younger. So for me, like I actually like to read. Like, what's the difference between then and now? Like, people don't really want to read anymore.
Oh man, that's a good question. People not reading is just like, I guess it almost ties into like how it is with like journalism, almost, where it's like that's even fading too. It's just people aren't looking to read things. They're looking just for a visual thing that they can watch and that they don't have to look close attention at. Because like I can do what I'm doing right now. I can just stare at a screen and just watch things move. When you look at the screen, you have to pay attention word for word. And do people really want to put all their focus into that? And I don't know. It just almost seems like watching things is, I guess, maybe a lazier thing than reading is a little more of a focused thing where you have to put a little more effort into to understand what you're looking at, rather than visual is very, very right at you and very direct.
It's so weird, and it's actually funny. Like one of the things, again, with my wife, when I first started writing and I was putting out articles for a movie pilot, which doesn't exist anymore, I was putting out the link images specifically because I love them. And then she said to me one day, she goes, "Yeah, but that's not going to attract people who don't read comic books." So like with link images and stuff like that, it's like people don't really want to read. They just want to see something flashy. They want to see a cool headline, and then they'll click. And I've noticed that with people in like the comment section, which if you're a writer, don't read the comment sections. They're the devil's playground, and 90% of the time they're trash. But I've noticed that people don't really read. Like I've had people go, "Well, you should have said this and you should do this." I'm like, "Well, if you scrolled and read paragraph 2, sentence 3, I actually made that point." So people don't read. They want the what does Jalen Rose call it? The microwave era.
The micro, yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah. I see what you're saying completely, because it's like people always say, "Oh, I hate clickbait headlines. I hate clickbait headlines." Honestly, that's all people read now. Is if your headline looks interesting, they'll read it. If they see something that's like very like direct, like let's say like if it's like Kawhi Leonard will sign with the Clippers, okay. Will Kawhi Leonard sign with the Clippers? Question mark. People are going to open that up, and I mean, for an industry like ours, that's at least for our section of it, that's a paid by the page view. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, I hate doing it, but it's hard not to go that way. And I understand why people, I guess, click and go through their media that way.
You know, you say something, and this is a conversation a buddy of mine told me. He told me, he's like, "Write clickbait." I'm like, "I hate writing clickbait." He goes, "You don't want to be a starving artist, write clickbait." So is there anything you've written where, like, after you were finished and you hit submit, you were just like, "Ugh, I can't believe I just did that"?
Oh God! If I had $1 for that, I would probably get up to like maybe 500 on that. There's been a lot of stuff that, especially there's a whole other fan side stuff I can go into, but there's a lot of stuff I'm not exactly proud of. That just had to just drive the site forward for traffic and what they look forward, or what the people above me and fan side look for from us. So if it makes them happy, then it is what it is. But yeah. I mean, there was stuff I am proud of, like my like covering some of the movies and stuff like that. But there is a lot of stuff that I'm just like, I hope that goes away one day.
I got a good one for you. There was a article. You put a vote. It was like the best comic book movies of all time. And everyone on the site took a vote, and we did that. And I was like, all right, this is cool. So I was lucky enough to get the article. And I had to write 200 words on why Batman Begins was good, and I hate that movie. And I sat there and I felt so dirty writing this. I'm like, I hate this movie. So I had to go into like, why it was so influential and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I hate this movie. But you're right, though. Like, but again, someone goes, why do you write it? I'm like, because they pay me to.
Exactly. That's the only reason you need.
Yeah, and I'm like, and it's like, I'm not going to say anything that's going to, like, make me feel, like, bad. Like, you know what I mean? If they say, hey, we want you to write something that's, I feel morally wrong, I'm like, yeah, I'll pass. But, it's comic book, so I'm fine. Before we get into the Spider-Verse, Far From Home, what did you think of this final phase? What did you think of this final, like, couple of years of Marvel? From we'll say, Thor Ragnarok to Far From Home.
Oh, it's been awesome. I've loved every single second of it. I've eaten it all up, from Thor to Infinity War to Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's been, and everything beyond that. I think Marvel has done a I have to say perfect. Yeah, they've been pretty much perfect with setting everything up, interweaving these storylines so well to fit the events of Infinity War and Endgame, and now how they're transitioning out of that with what we saw in Far From Home. It's been awesome. It's been a fun ride, and I highly anticipate every single movie before they come out. I'm loving it.
Should we be, because they've been on such a hot streak, should we be concerned about the future of the MCU?
No, after what I saw from Far From Home, no. I'm not concerned at all, especially with the movies they have set up. That's going to really diversify everything now, which I think you're going to open up to a Marvel is a huge audience as it is, but you're really going to connect with a lot more people, and I think that's awesome. Everything from what they're doing with the Eternals, Shang-Chi, they say they're going to introduce LGBTQ characters in there, which I think is a good thing. So Marvel's going to really even more modernize themselves, and I think that's great. All
right, so before just letting anyone know now, if you have not seen Into the Spider-Verse, the rest of this episode will be about Spider-Verse. Wow, I keep getting that wrong. If you have not seen Spider-Man Far From Home, stop now, because this is going to be spoiler filled. So this is what's about to happen. We're going to talk about Far From Home. There are going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen here. That has been your warning. I don't care at this point. So, what do you think of the movie? I absolutely loved it from start to finish.
Yeah, I went as far as to say that this is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie. I agree. Even beyond Spider-Man 2 from the first trilogy, I loved it. I saw it again last night, and I'm still in awe of it. I love how they're pushing the post-Endgame story forward. I love how they're pushing forward Peter Parker. He's growing up. I think he grew up in this movie from a scared little Avenger to handling Tony Stark like tech, and he's doing it well. He looks more confident, and then everything from the Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain, I think, was just awesome.
So let's start there with Jake Gyllenhaal, man. Like, people don't realize or forget how good of an actor he is, man. And for comic book fans, we were kind of like, eventually we'll find out that he was the villain. But even watching him do the transition from hero, quote unquote, to villain was phenomenal. And like that scene in the bar where they were all waiting for Spider-Man to leave, and then the illusion faded away, I was like, brilliantly done.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't give any hints along the way of like, oh, I'm really being a bad guy behind the scenes, whatnot, which I thought was awesome because so many times you can see these villainous turns coming in these movies, but he never gave a hint at all. I mean, maybe if you knew, for people who like us who knew the comic book backstory, maybe we expected it, but if you went in there without knowing anything, you were probably shocked. You're probably shocked to see, oh, he had that villainous grin he puts on his face and I'm just like, and when he did that, I'm like, whoa, I'm like, oh man, like, let's go. That was awesome.
It was so, yeah, like, I didn't even think about the grin until you said something, like, there was something off about him, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there moving, my wife goes, he's a bad guy, right? And I'm like, I just watched the movie, I can't say anything to you about it. So, but then when you find out why he became the antagonist in this movie, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, I'd be kind of bitter if someone took my work and then called it, was it barf?
Yeah, barf, yeah.
Yeah, like, I'd be a little mad at that. And then you find out all the stuff that, like, kind of, like, one of the other guys getting yelled at and all the stuff going on. You're kind of like, okay, I can understand it. But they also didn't do that thing where they made him a relatable character, because as soon as you figured out that he was a bad guy, they gave you a reason to hate him. And so it's like, okay, cool. So we're going to continue with this idea that some villains should actually be villains.
Yeah. I mean, you see how, like, his villainy almost, like, it escalated as the movie went on. He went from just trying to get the Edith technology to wanting to kill Peter Parker to wanting to kill Peter Parker's friends. And once you see him just keep going, and then up until that very last point in the first post-credit scene, you just see how far he went as a villain, and it's just like, whew, that was one hell of a turn from the start of it. That was unbelievable, and I think that the fact that they had him like this just made him maybe one of the best MCU villains they've had.
I have to agree, man, and again, I wish they would just stop killing villains. But even then, it's like there's no guarantee he's dead because he does have that illusion tech, and Mysterio is the master of illusions, so he might not be dead. And even if they go as so far as to make him an illusion, we still get the greatness of Mysterio that was Jake Gyllenhaal. They even made that fishbowl head look. It was cheesy, but it wasn't like overly done. I was like, okay, fishbowl head, cool, I'm with it.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't think he's dead. I really don't think he's dead. I think that whole, who knows what was real in that whole illusion scene on the tower bridge. He could be flying around over the next few years in the MCU, and then next thing you know, you see him pop up in the next Spider-Man film with Vulture and maybe a couple other villains. Maybe we get the Sinister Six out.
Yes.
Maybe so. Maybe having someone like Wilson Fisk lead them, which I think would be a lot of fun. So we'll see.
With everything going on with Netflix, I know it may not be possible, but I would love to see Vincent D'Onofrio in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's my personal favorite villain in maybe any comic book project that's been on screen. He's been my favorite just because of like the way he goes about it. Like even when he's calm, it's still scary. You know what I mean? Because you know at any minute he could snap, and I love that about Wilson Fisk in the Daredevil series. But let's get back to the because you mentioned it, the mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
That it made me so mad that they dropped that bomb of the world finding out who Peter Parker was, and now we have to wait 2 years, possibly more, for another Spider-Man movie. And you're like, you have got to be kidding me.
That might have been the best Marvel cliffhanger ever.
I agree.
It's incredible, and the fact that you bring back J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, and once they brought up the breaking news thing and they said Daily Bugle, I'm like, wait a second, are they really about to do this? And all of a sudden you see him pop up, and then the entire audience I was with just cheers and starts clapping. I'm like, wow, they did this. So that's what made me think. I mean, just going back to the Wilson Fisk stuff a little bit, it makes me think a little bit that maybe there is that possibility they can bring back Vincent D'Onofrio, maybe. But I mean, that credits scene though, it was awesome, absolutely. Whew, I loved it.
Yeah, and everything about that movie from start to finish was a Spider-Man movie. It was okay. The biggest thing for me has been with Peter Parker in the all the Spider-Man movies is he hasn't really used his science brain yet. So that kind of annoyed me because yes, Spider-Man he's a fighter, but he's more of a scientist than he is a fighter. And it always kind of bugged me that he never really got into that. But we got a lot of that in this movie, and I'm going, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for him to use that science brain. There's an issue of, I want to say Marvel Knight Spider-Man, where he was talking to Hank Pym, and he said, oh, I need to find someone. He goes, oh, I have a spider tracer, and Hank Pym is so mad. He goes, you made a spider tracer when you were 15, and you spent all your time punching people in the face? And it was so funny and so true, but then, like, watching him kind of use the math on how he's going to put the webs on the drones, and then fixing one of, I think it was it an EMP I think they used that blew up on it. It was just watching him do all this stuff, like, as a scientist, I was like, oh, this is cool, this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah. That seemed like almost like one of those things where I was reading up on something with the movie, how they're using things like that and like his Peter's spider sense and how he was originally bit by spiders, kind of like things that fans are almost expected to walk in knowing, which I thought was interesting because like they want to do it a little like because they say like, oh, we've done this before already, so like they're kind of making it general knowledge at this point, which it is interesting because a lot of people might not know that if they haven't followed it.
Yes.
But yeah, I did think that was cool that they brought in a little bit of like how he's a little bit of a science guy, and maybe they'll find a way to work it into the next movie. However, he handles the world knowing he's Spider-Man now.
I kind of feel like there's no way that the end of the next movie ends with the world thinking that he's Peter Parker. There's no way that happens. Like, there's something will go on, and they'll go, it's been disproven, and blah, 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 and, you know. A friend of mine actually had a really good theory. He thinks that this is how they bring in Kraven. And so we got to talking, and he said, like, this is how the government's going to need someone to track him. We need to find out who Peter Parker is, and of all the people, all the Spider-Man villains, Kraven would be the one who would be able to track him. The only other person I could think of is if they're going to use J.K. Simmons, is they could bring in the Scorpio. Because we've seen him in Far From Home, so it wouldn't be shocking if they took him out of prison, experimented on him to make him the Scorpion, and go from there. But either way, I think we're going to get either Scorpion or Kraven in the next movie.
Ooh, I'd be down for either of those either way. I think that'd be a lot of fun because they have so many different things they have so many different ways they can go with this third movie now, and it's just, it's gonna be a long 2 years, and I can't wait.
And you know, I think the other thing that makes this movie so good is like Tom Holland loves doing it. Like, you see him in interviews, you see him just like randomly like in videos, and you can tell that like he's ecstatic that he's like, I get to be Spider-Man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he seems so happy to do that. And like it shows in his performance. Like, watching him be like awkward around MJ and try to balance the life between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, or look, a mountain goat, and then he jumps and does the thing with, I'm like, oh, that's something he would do in the comic books. And then watching him like just flat out beat down and having to get back up. Again, more stuff that seemed to come right up the comic books. So whoever's writing and directing these movies, like, it seems like they know the character, and maybe it's just a Marvel Studios thing where they're going, hey, we want to keep this as close to home as possible because things like that will show in the performance and in the films.
Yeah, he loves this role. He said he wants to play Spider-Man for as long as possible. And hey, if they're going to strap the MCU on his back now with Robert Downey Jr. out now, he'll love it even more when he's getting paid however many millions of dollars to keep making these movies until he's in his late 20s, 30s. Who knows how long he goes with it? It's probably however long he wants to go with it.
And I mean, and that would be awesome to see to see Tom Holland play Spider-Man well into his 30s and maybe his 40s, because we would get to see him like we saw him in the comic books. And I honestly agree that Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, should be the leader of the Avengers. She should be the one leading the Avengers, but I feel like Tom Holland and Spider-Man should be leading the MCU franchise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because with the way how they set up, from everything they've set up with Captain Marvel and how I mean that movie already proved that Brie Larson can lead a box office too. I mean that made over $1 billion, which was awesome. I could definitely see. I see what you mean. Yeah, she leads beyond. I see what you mean. Like Spider-Man's more the character to lead it, but I guess Brie Larson, almost like the fresher face, I guess. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but... Yeah, like,
you need a leader. Spider-Man's a great character, but he's not necessarily a leader. Like, it's good to see him in the comic books when he's leading, like, the other Spider-Man, Spider-Beings, the Spider-Universe. That's great. He's not an Avengers leader, you know what I mean? It's different when... Because, like, you have Brie Larson, Carol Danvers, who was in the military. She's led an alien armada. Like, you know, she's been doing it a lot longer. So it would make more sense for her to lead the Avengers. But with that said, even Captain America, who leads, took notes from Iron Man because he had a science mind. So eventually Brie Larson's probably going to look to Spider-Man the same way that Tony Stark looked to Peter Parker with certain things. So I think the MCU's in really good hands. I just think averages, okay, they've been batting 1,000 for a while. But then again, I'm thinking, okay, the first Thor wasn't really that good. The second Thor was pretty bad, but the third one was great. So, you know, Iron Man 2, people love it, people hate it. Same thing with Iron Man 3. So it's not like everything has been peaches and cream for the MCU.
Yeah, there's gonna definitely still be highs and lows unless they found like this. I know people say like they're kind of like what's the word for how, like, very almost like robotic in the way how they tell the stories sometimes. Like a lot of them look the same, I guess. So maybe people say that as a reason for why they could keep going like this, but they're gonna, something's not gonna go great. At some point, it's inevitable. I mean, even Ant-Man and the Wasp wasn't, I don't think, any type of critical success in that way. But yeah, there's gonna be movies that come up down the line that just aren't gonna hit well. It's inevitable, but with their track record and everything they've done, they'll be able to carry this for probably however long they want.
Yeah, it looks like it, man. I'm looking forward to it. The MCU's in good hands, and we still haven't even gotten into Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, which I'm really looking forward to. Paul Rudd, hoping to get an Ant-Man 3. And then we have, then there's the Disney streaming service, and who knows what they're going to do with that and how that's going to play into the movies. So everything we saw in Far From Home could lead into things that happen with the streaming service, because I wouldn't be shocked if Falcon and Bucky are kind of just like, wow, I can't believe this happened to that kid. You know what I mean? And who knows? We may get a solution to that before the next Spider-Man movie. And it seems like Marvel Studios is in really good hands right now. And Kevin Feige, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
He seems to know what he wants to do, and especially since, like, when you look at the credits, you'll see comic book writers who are in there, so they are adding input. So it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, getting back to the Marvel streaming stuff. I mean, like, I would hope we're gonna see Anthony Mackie suit up as Captain America for the first time by next year. That would be awesome for a way how to weave that stuff in before it gets to the movies. I mean, maybe not full-fledged Captain America going all out, but maybe just working his way into the suit. And then, weaving in the world's reaction to Peter Parker being Spider-Man. And then all the other post-Endgame events you can fit in there through that series and the Wanda and Vision series. Even whatever they're doing with the Loki series, I think that might be a little different. Yeah. But all these series can weave in these little things before the big screen. I think that's a really cool. It's gonna be a really just awesome thing they can do.
Yeah, man. So this has been the Old Man Wade Show. Hey, thanks for coming on and doing this, man. It's funny when I hit you up to actually do this, I thought he was gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this."
No, I had every interest in doing it. I hadn't done a podcast in 2 years. I think it's been a while. I just haven't had time really. So I have more time now a little bit. So I'm glad to be on.
Hey, tell everyone if they want to read the things you're doing or just find you in general. Like, I enjoy your commentary on the wrestling stuff. I enjoy your commentary when you're talking about basketball. So tell everyone where they can find you if they want to read your stuff, if they want to tweet you. Tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on first dailyknicks.com. I have Knicks content on there pretty much every single day. On Forbes.com, where I cover the San Antonio Spurs a few times a month. On Twitter at Real Rob Wolken. And just keep track of all that stuff. I appreciate any kind of support. I'm trying to put myself out more on social media and stuff like that. So I'll take any support I can get.
Well, you got the support of the Old Man Wade Show. I know there will at least be a couple of people who listen to the show who will definitely follow you. My best friend Lavelle, you've probably seen him. He does all the live coverage for WrestleZone for Raw, SmackDown, and TNA, which so you've probably heard him talk about. You've probably seen him on there, so he'll definitely give you a follow, and you guys can debate and laugh and talk about how bad and good things are. I'd love to have you on again. We can talk about that after. So thank you for coming on the show. But until then,
do as I command. Damn it, Wade.